Ever wondered what went on behind the cameras in the golden age of Hollywood? What if everything you thought you knew about your favorite stars and movies wasn't quite the truth? In the world of glitz and glamour, Hollywood often seems like a dream come true. But behind the scenes, the story is far from perfect. From shocking scandals to untold struggles, there's more than meets the eye. In this video, we'll uncover what really happened behind the cameras, revealing the untold stories of the stars, the controversies, and the dark side of the industry. Get ready, because you won't believe what went on when the cameras stopped rolling. The Facade of Perfection. In the world of old Hollywood, everything was about image. The stars, the films, and even the studios worked tirelessly to create a facade of perfection. To the public, Hollywood seemed like a dreamland, filled with glamorous actors, stunning actresses, and movies that seemed to capture the essence of fantasy. But behind this carefully curated perfection was a very different reality. Hollywood didn't just craft films, it crafted personas. Stars were molded into idealized versions of themselves that the public could admire, envy, and adore. The studio system was a well-oiled machine, and everything from their wardrobe choices to their relationships was managed by the studios. Actors and actresses had little control over their public images, and their lives were often dictated by contracts and public expectations. Take, for instance, the legendary Marilyn Monroe. While her on-screen persona was the epitome of beauty and innocence, her personal life was filled with struggles, from abusive relationships to battles with mental health. Monroe's life was far from the image of the carefree, glamorous movie star she portrayed. The studios worked hard to keep her struggles hidden, even as she became one of the most beloved icons of all time. But Marilyn Monroe wasn't alone. Many stars suffered in silence, feeling trapped by the very image that made them famous. Behind their perfect smiles and flawless performances, they were often dealing with personal demons that the public never saw. It wasn't just the actors, directors, writers, and other creatives faced immense pressure as well, with their careers on the line if they didn't deliver perfection. But was the pursuit of perfection worth it? Was it worth the personal sacrifices, the emotional toll, and the pressure of maintaining a flawless image at all costs? The reality behind the scenes was far from the glitzy, glamorous picture that Hollywood painted. It was a place where the pursuit of perfection could destroy people, and the truth was hidden beneath layers of makeup, studio-manipulated stories, and false smiles. The control of the studios. In the golden age of Hollywood, the real power didn't rest with the stars. It was held firmly by the studios. The studio system, which dominated Hollywood from the 1920s to the 1950s, gave studios immense control over every aspect of an actor's life. This included their contracts, public personas, career choices, and even who they could associate with. The stars were often bound by long-term exclusive contracts, leaving them with little personal freedom. Actors and actresses were expected to fit into specific molds crafted by the studios, who wanted to maintain a consistent, marketable image. These studios were incredibly powerful, and they knew exactly how to manufacture the perfect public figure. Famous stars like Clark Gable, Joan Crawford, and Greta Garbo were often not given the chance to define their own careers. They were the product of the studio's careful, controlling hands. This control extended beyond acting roles. Studios decided where their stars lived, whom they dated, and how they spent their free time. In many cases, this power even extended to their personal lives. For example, actresses like Judy Garland were sometimes coerced into marriages or relationships that were nothing more than PR stunts. Their every move was carefully watched and manipulated to fit the perfect image the studios wanted to project. But what happened to those who tried to defy the studios? Was it possible to break free from their grasp, or did rebellion lead to ruin? The dark side of Hollywood. Scandals and secrets. Behind the shiny facade of old Hollywood, there was a much darker side, a world of scandals, secrets, and cover-ups that the public never knew about. Hollywood was not just a place for glamorous movie stars, it was also a world of hidden affairs, substance abuse, and mysterious deaths. These scandals were often swept under the rug and buried by studios desperate to protect their pristine image. For example, some of Hollywood's most beloved stars had tumultuous, hidden personal lives. Actors like Errol Flynn and Rock Hudson were involved in scandals that were intentionally concealed from the media. Rock Hudson, for instance, was privately gay during a time when being openly homosexual could end a career. His true identity was carefully hidden by the studio, even as he played the role of the perfect, straight leading man. The public had no idea about the struggles and secrets of these stars, only the clean, shiny version of who they were allowed to see. And then there were the mysterious deaths, some still questioned to this day. The tragic deaths of figures like Marilyn Monroe, who died under suspicious circumstances, left behind a cloud of speculation that many believed was orchestrated by powerful figures in Hollywood. Monroe's tragic end was just one of many stories of lives lost too soon, often due to the extreme pressures of fame. Hollywood's power players worked tirelessly to control the narrative, keeping these scandals out of the spotlight and maintaining the illusion of the perfect movie industry. How many secrets did Hollywood hide to protect its image? What did they risk by keeping these scandals in the shadows? The struggles of women in Hollywood. While old Hollywood may have seemed like a glamorous place where stars were made, the reality for women in the industry was far from fairy tale-like. In a time when the entertainment industry was largely dominated by men, women faced unique and often harsh challenges both on and off the screen. The portrayal of women in Hollywood movies was often narrow and limited, reflecting society's expectations rather than the reality of women's diverse experiences. Female stars were often typecast into roles that reinforced traditional gender stereotypes, roles of the innocent, docile lover, the damsel in distress, or the femme fatale. They were expected to be beautiful and perfectly polished, not only on screen but also in their personal lives. The pressure to maintain their looks and stay youthful was immense, and many women were subjected to invasive beauty regimens, including extreme dieting, cosmetic surgery, and harsh treatments to keep up with the relentless demands of Hollywood beauty standards. Behind the scenes, women faced a much darker reality. They were often treated as commodities, and their careers were controlled by male studio heads, directors, and producers who held the keys to their success. Many actresses had to endure exploitation and even sexual harassment to keep their careers going. It wasn't uncommon for women to be forced into relationships, both personal and professional, that were more about advancing their careers than about genuine affection. One famous example is the story of the legendary actress Jean Harlow. While she was a major box office draw, her personal life was filled with struggles. Her first marriage was forced upon her by the studio, and she faced immense pressure to maintain her all-American image. Harlow's tragic death at the young age of 26 was a result of a combination of her stressful career and her health struggles, which were largely ignored by the studios that controlled her every move. Even the most successful actresses were not immune to these pressures. Women like Ingrid Bergman, who was one of the biggest stars of her time, faced public backlash after her scandalous relationship with director Roberto Rossellini, which led to her being ostracized from Hollywood for a period. Despite her talent, she had to fight against the rigid expectations of what a Hollywood woman should be. But did these women ever truly find freedom? Was it possible for them to break away from the suffocating grip of Hollywood's demands and live life on their terms? The forgotten stars, careers cut short. In old Hollywood, fame could be fleeting. While some actors enjoyed long and prosperous careers, others saw their time in the spotlight cut short, often due to the very pressures that made Hollywood so alluring. Many stars who rose to fame in the 1930s and 1940s found themselves cast aside, forgotten, or pushed into obscurity as the studio system evolved and the demand for fresh faces became a constant. For some stars, the end of their careers was due to a sudden fall from grace, scandals, personal problems, or struggles with substance abuse. For example, actor John Gilbert, once a major heartthrob, fell out of favor after the advent of sound in films. His voice was considered too high-pitched for the emerging era of talkies, and his career quickly crumbled. Similarly, the famous actress Dorothy Dandridge, who broke racial barriers as one of the first black women to achieve widespread fame, faced racism and systemic challenges that severely limited her opportunities in Hollywood. Despite her immense talent, Dandridge's career was short-lived, and her story became one of heartbreak as she was pushed aside by an unforgiving industry. Others faded from the limelight simply because they couldn't keep up with the industry's demands. Many actors struggled with the rapid changes in the Hollywood system. Stars who were once in high demand were suddenly discarded when they no longer fit the evolving ideal of beauty or the shifting tastes of moviegoers. The rise of new talent, changing trends, and the ever-present pressure to maintain one's image meant that many stars were cast aside without a second thought. What happens when the lights go down and the cameras stop rolling? For many of these forgotten stars, the end of their careers wasn't just the end of their fame, It was the beginning of a quiet and often painful disappearance from public memory. Behind the scenes of iconic films. While old Hollywood is known for its star-studded premieres and dazzling films, many of the most iconic movies were also plagued with intense behind-the-scenes struggles, scandals, and drama. These films, often celebrated for their artistry, weren't always as glamorous as they appeared, and the process of making them was filled with challenges that didn't make it into the final cut. Take Gone with the Wind, for example. While it became one of the most successful and beloved films of all time, the making of this film was a nightmare for many of its cast and crew. Actress Vivien Leigh, who played the iconic Scarlett O'Hara, struggled with her health during filming. She faced the immense pressure of living up to the public's expectation of perfection, all while dealing with personal troubles. Clark Gable, who played Rhett Butler, also struggled with his role and resented his portrayal as a romantic hero. The film's director, Victor Fleming, was known for his volatile temper, and the film's production was plagued with constant changes and delays. Despite the eventual success of Gone with the Wind, the behind-the-scenes chaos reflected how even the greatest films were born from an environment of tension, struggle, and hardship. Another example is The Wizard of Oz. This film, now an enduring classic, was far from the magical experience one might imagine. Actress Judy Garland, who played Dorothy, was subjected to intense pressure from the studio, including being given dangerous diet pills to keep her weight down and having her personal life scrutinized by the press. Behind the cameras, Garland's struggles with addiction, mental health, and exploitation by the studio were rampant, but they were hidden from the public to preserve her image as the sweet and innocent Dorothy. Even Casablanca, a film widely regarded as one of the greatest of all time, was not without its challenges. The film's cast faced constant rewriting of the script, delays in filming, and friction among the crew. Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, who played the iconic leads, had a complex relationship, and their on-screen chemistry was the result of much tension and professional rivalry. Yet, despite the chaos, these films went on to become masterpieces, with the stories of their making adding layers of intrigue to their legacy. But what happened when the cameras stopped rolling? How did these stars and filmmakers cope with the pressures and challenges once the cameras turned off and the world moved on to the next big film? The fall of the studio system. By the late 1950s, the tightly controlled studio system that had dominated Hollywood for decades began to collapse. Several factors led to this dramatic shift, including the rise of television, the end of long-term studio contracts, and growing resistance from stars who wanted more control over their careers. In its heyday, the studio system had allowed studios to control nearly every aspect of their actors' lives, from their roles in films to their personal lives. But by the late 1940s, things were starting to change. The major studios were losing their grip on the industry, and actors began to demand more creative control. The advent of television provided an alternative form of entertainment, and many viewers started tuning into TV shows instead of going to the movies. This shift in audience behavior hurt box office sales, and the studios realized they needed to adapt. A significant blow came in the form of the Paramount decision in 1948, a landmark antitrust case that forced studios to sell off their theater chains. This ended the vertical integration system, where studios not only produced films but also owned the theaters that showed them. With the loss of control over distribution, studios were left scrambling to find new ways to maintain their dominance. At the same time, the rise of method acting and independent films meant that actors were no longer willing to be controlled by studio bosses. Actors like Marlon Brando and James Dean rejected the traditional mold, choosing roles that allowed them to express more complex, nuanced characters. They became symbols of the changing times, embodying the new wave of rebelliousness and individualism in Hollywood. As the influence of the studios waned, actors gained more autonomy, allowing them to shape their careers and take on roles that reflected their personal choices. Did this newfound freedom bring more happiness to Hollywood stars? Was it possible for them to escape the pressures of the industry, or did they simply replace one set of expectations with another? So, what do you think? Were these Hollywood secrets buried for a reason, or is the truth finally coming to light? If you enjoyed this look behind the scenes, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more shocking revelations and untold stories. Don't miss out on what's coming next. Trust me, you'll want to see it.